social media is awash with reactions over a tweet made by the Department of State Services requesting X Corporation to deactivate the account of activist and politician Omoyele Sowore over a post the agency claims is a threat to national security. The DSS made the demand in a letter posted on X, accusing Sowore of posting a tweet on August 25th, which contains misleading information that disparages and ridicules President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In the post, Sowore called the president a criminal and accused him of lying shamelessly about a lack of corruption. The DSS claims that Sowore's tweet has caused widespread condemnation and could lead to public protests, threatening national security and damaging the country's reputation. The agency also argued that Sowore's post violates several Nigerian laws, including the Criminal Code Act and the Cybercrimes Act, which prohibit false information, hate speech, and online harassment. And I'll read a part of the DSS tweet they wrote on X. It is pertinent to bring to your knowledge that under the Nigerian law, these quoted tweets, words, constitute offense punishable in Section 51 of the Criminal Code Act Cap 77 laws of the Federation of Nigeria, which prohibits publication of false information, and Section 19, 22, and 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act 2025, which prohibits and makes it an offense to spread fake news or publishing content that is deliberately misleading or deceptive, posting content that is rude, vulgar, offensive, or indecent, especially with the intent to embarrass or humiliate others, provoke ethnic, religious, or tribal hatred through online or offline statements amounting to domestic terrorism. Very detailed tweets there by the DSS. However, in a show of defiance, activist Omoyele Sowore vowed not to delete his controversial tweet. He described the letter from the DSS as an act of national disgrace, an assault on institutions, and on common sense. Sowore claimed he anticipated the letter, pointing to a protest last Tuesday by a group of, he says, hired DSS protesters who had chanted for his arrest and urged him to leave Tinubu alone. Expressing outrage over what he called an unconstitutional act by the State Security Service, Sowore went on to post the very tweet he was asked to delete with the caption, "This is the tweet. This morning, X, formerly Twitter, officially contacted me about the despicable threat letter they received from the lawless official DSS over my tweet below on Tinubu. One option I will not be taking is deleting that tweet. Thank you at X." Let me just quickly take one reaction to Sowore's tweet. And this is a concerned X user who wrote, "In all sincerity, calling the president criminal is not right in any way. No court of any jurisdiction has pronounced him as one. I mean, why labeling him one?" Go ahead, Dr. Bati.
Okay, two ways to look at this. From the perspective of government, the concern of the Department of State Security is that we have a law in place, the Criminal Code, the very controversial Cyber Security Act, Sections 18, 22, and 24. Section 24 being the most controversial, particularly as it has been applied by the police. And the DSS is saying, under the laws of our country, we do not allow hate speech or cyberbullying, which will amount to domestic terrorism. And that they, in their own consideration, think that Sowore calling the president of Nigeria, when he has not been so declared by a court of law, is beyond the pale. And that was why they wrote to X, managers of X, to say, delete that particular tweet and, in fact, suspend his account. Now, the ex-managers, following due process, contacted him and gave him the information. But how was this resolved at the end of the day? The tweet was on August 27, and Sowore says he's not going to delete any tweet. And I think that X has also not suspended his account. However, he went a step further to say he's defiant, that he's been persecuted by the Nigerian government. And his supporters will say that, in fact, there's probably a case of persecution here from the protest at the toll gate, NSAS, from NSAS protest to arraignment in court to, invitations by the police. And now he says the DSS has also now joined. But that the struggle for him continues. Whether they imprison him or they take him to court or they delete his Facebook account or they delete his X account, that he is committed to the struggle. So, people like Sowore, they are of a different type. He's also an opposition politician. And he says, this is where I stand in this matter. So where do you draw the line? theoretically now, between the right to free speech and the laws of the land that talk about hate speech, and where is the responsibility of government in enforcing these laws. It's a very tight rope. There's no way you will swing and you will not end up, being accused of taking sides in the matter. However, what is important is that while the government has a responsibility to respect the boundaries in terms of the rights of the individual, individuals also, while expressing their rights under Section 39 of the Constitution, must also realize that, look, where your right stops is where other people's rights begin. And that is why government, individuals, they have the recourse, if they have been defamed, to under the same laws that the state is quoting, to defamation. The president of Nigeria can sue. If you call him a criminal, you can be asked to come and prove it in a court of law. If you defame another person using social media, you can be sued to come and prove it. So it's a very delicate balance in respecting the rights of individuals and also upholding the law.
All right, you know that Sowore also accused the Tinubu regime of using the Nigeria police force to systematically harass, torture, and persecute him. These tweets have gone viral. Rufai, I'd like to just highlight this. The DSS is a secret service institution that investigates crimes against the state. They are also empowered to protect the president. So this might sound really, strange to a lot of people, but however, the DSS is doing their job. And I'd like to also take another tweet before I come to you. And just also to note that the DSS has said that, they are going to go after X as well as, Sowore, if they don't comply. We had that issue the last time with Muhammadu Buhari, the Twitter ban. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but let me take this tweet from Chinedu, who wrote to the DSS. Are you guys not aware of the mayhem that happened in Edo State? They killed officers like you, and you are here lamenting about a tweet from Sowore, and that's the sort of rhetoric that we are seeing online at this point.
See, I have been a very big advocate of the DSS and what they've been doing in stemming the tide of insecurity. But if I'm going to give honest counsel, this was not the right way to go about it. And this is sad. You see, what they have now done is, a lot of people might not even have seen Sowore's tweets. He said he tweeted it on the 27th.
Yes.
26th of August.
I think it was 25th. I saw it.
What are we today? Yes. What are we today? 8th. I only knew about the tweets because they started talking about it and the letter they wrote over the weekend.
That's when you saw Sowore's tweet.
I didn't even know that he tweeted anything of that nature. This is not the way to go about it. Because, you see, we live in a country where, when we want to look at things on the pedestal of fairness, yes, what I would just say is, it wasn't right to have called the president a clown. You don't have any court judgment to be able to back that up. My point on the DSS, what is happening is the fact that when you start to say, okay, let's cherry pick, people will now ask you, what about what is happening in Edo? What about the people inciting violence online? Because the DSS statement talked about inciting violence, and the next thing, you are not doing anything. We are in this country when Bayo Ononuga came out openly to say that this should be the last time the Igbo should put mouth in Lagos politics. Right. And he also doubled down on the statement. Why didn't we have a level of control and contrition? So that's why I said going through this route is a route that will not benefit anybody. All right. That's just my point.
That's your point.
Can I just make a point?
And highlighting what Rufai has said, which is quite apt. The fact that there are so many other ex-users that have made these sort of derogatory remarks or even, statements is quite apt, because the DSS should go after everybody and not cherry pick, which I like as well. But I would like for you to buttress the point I was making.
I just wanted to say that for me, what would really matter would be when Sowore made the statement, after the clarification or before.
He made it before.
Before the clarification.
So,
it was before the clarification, then I can understand why he put it. But following the clarification, I do believe that if he continues down that path, then he's just deliberately wanting to attack what has already been clarified. Yes, it's not a good look for the president's statements to be frequently clarified, but he does have the right to do so.
He does.
You can speak off the cuff, and then you can clarify your statement in his defense, because we've seen situations where they make a statement and they stand by that statement. Irrespective, so do whatever you want to do. They stand by that statement. So following the facts, then I would say, okay, I understand where they're coming from. But I totally agree that the challenge with this is selective justice, and selective action, which the DSS has been accused of doing. But beyond that, I must say that there's no one that's above the law. In 2021, the president of the United States account was banned by Twitter itself, following statements that were deemed to be inflammatory when he talked about the calling patriots the people who invaded, Capitol Hill. So it does happen, and that's why they called for an outright ban, that if this account consistently misleads people or could incite instigate, unrest based on information that is not fully correct, then they can take an action. However, I do hope that the DSS, since they want to be, they are really, the action is there to clamp down on hate. They can't cherry pick. If they're doing it to Sowore, to show that it is not targeted, and agreeing with what he says that he has been a target since NSAS.
Omoyele Sowore, you have 7 days to delete the tweet, or you face the wrath of DSS. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this channel. Of course, this is about perspectives, your domain for an unfiltered news and raw political analysis. Today, we dive into one of the most heated political storms currently brewing in Nigeria, a storm that is shaking the very foundation of freedom of speech, democracy, and political dissent. At the center of it all is human rights activist and Sahara Reporters publisher Omoyele Sowore, whose controversial post on X, formerly Twitter, about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not only unsettled the corridors of power, but has reportedly sent the Department of State Services, the DSS, into panic mode. Now, the questions are flying. Can a sitting president be openly called a criminal without consequences? Should freedom of speech cover such bold accusation? And most importantly, what does this battle mean for the future of democracy and civic engagement in Nigeria? Stay with me, because this story is more than just about Sowore versus Tinubu. This is completely about Nigeria's political soul. Now, what happened? Over a week ago. What? Over a week ago. It's not even today. Over a week ago, Sowore made a daring post on X about President Tinubu, a post that DSS reportedly asked him to take down immediately. Then Sowore insists on not bowing to intimidation, refused point blank. In fact, he doubled down, insisting he would never delete the tweet, not even at the end of Tinubu's administration. The DSS then escalated matters, issuing ultimatums and pressuring ex-administrators to take action against Sowore. Notifications were actually sent to Sowore about the post, but the activist stood his ground, describing the move as an attempt to crush freedom of speech in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Nigerians have reacted sharply. Many argue that instead of wasting energy on a tweet, an ordinary tweet, the government should focus on pressing national issues, insecurity problem, poverty problem, and recent tragic taking lives of security operatives in Edo State. Social media has been set on fire with heated debates. In Sowore lawyers' camp, Inibe has also, responded, making it clear that government agencies cannot intimidate citizens into silence. Social media commentator like Very Dark Man also reacted, alleging that APC's grand plan is actually to completely shut down freedom of speech in Nigeria. And so many Nigerians actually, putting in their opinion. This clash echoes a similar incident during the late Muhammad Buhari's presidency, when his infamous tweet threatening to deal with Igbos in the language they understand led to massive backlash and was eventually deleted by Twitter, a move that triggered the federal government's retaliatory ban on the platform. Amnesty International has also reacted, warning heavily against the suppression of a freedom of speech in Nigeria. Now, you can't get this solved without the legal and political framework. What does this look like in the face of litigation and politics? Now, let's break it down. First, freedom of expression under the Nigerian Constitution, citing Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution, guarantees every Nigerian the right to freedom of speech, including holding opinions and imparting ideas. Sowore is, actually leaning on this right. However, Nigerian law also, provide exceptions. There is always a limitation: national security, defamation, and public morality. So the legal question is, does calling the president a criminal fall under, a legitimate free speech, or does it, cross into defamation? Secondly, the DSS and rule of law. By pressuring Sowore and X, to take down the tweet, DSS is actually walking a dangerous line. Their mandate is to protect national security, not to police opinions on social media. This raises a fear of authoritarian overreach. Thirdly, people will ask, is it justifiable to call Tinubu criminal, both in political and legal framework? Let's dive into it. Legally, unless there is a court judgment labeling Tinubu, such a statement cannot be, considered defamatory. But politically, Sowore's comment is rooted in past controversies: Chicago State University certificate issue, alleged drug cases from, the US, and questions of legitimacy after the 2023 general elections. Because many Nigerians see Sowore's tweet not as a fabrication, but as a reflection of lingering doubts in Nigeria's democracy. Then fourth, the political implications. If Tinubu wins this war and forces Sowore to delete the post or punishes him, it would embolden the APC-led government to silence dissent, setting a dangerous precedent for the death of free speech in Nigeria. Now, if Sowore wins, it could also mark a bold victory for civic freedom, empowering Nigerians to criticize their leaders without fear of reprisal. But it may also increase government hostility towards social media platforms, possibly leading to a stricter controls. Wrapping it up, this saga is more than a spat between Sowore and DSS. It represents a heavy war against dissent in Nigeria, against critics in Nigeria. On one hand, Sowore stands as a symbol of uncompromising activism, though some critics argue that his approach is more about noise than strategy, earning him the street tag of cashivist, someone accused of monetizing activism. While some may hold this opinion, it will be a question of whether Sowore would want to be continuing in trying to prevent bad governance, whereas he cannot work to install one. That is to say, cure to him is better than prevention. To some Nigerians, if Sowore is truly and genuinely pushing for the betterment of Nigerians, he should align himself with some people they call less tips, less evil in politics, and get things working. I mean, to the best of everyone's knowledge, Sowore has been on the streets protesting against bad governance since 1990s, and till today he is still on the street protesting. That is almost 3 decades on the same thing. So these are where it seems to be questionable to some people. These are where Sowore's activism seems to be highly controversial. On the other hand, Tinubu's government seems determined to prove it can handle opposition with a firm grip. Remember, it's not up to a month that Sowore was actually brutalized by Nigerian police. Now we're having DSS threats. History, however, teaches us that good activists or good people rarely last long in Nigeria. Talking about the likes of Sarowiwa, Delegiwa, and others, the Nigerian state has always been harsh on dissenters. But then, whether Sowore will at last this battle or be crushed like others before him remains to be seen. Finally, this is what I have to say. In Nigeria, where we are, at the crossroad of history, once again, a single tweet has ignited a national storm, and it's been given the best of publicity ever, whereas insecurity is actually eating up the country. This tweet is bringing up a question like, is Nigeria sliding back into authoritarianism? Shouldn't a president be criticized? Would there be a limitation to criticizing the president? And will this battle determine the fate of a free speech in our country? If Tinubu triumphs, expect a chilling silence across social media. In Nigeria, where dissent is gagged, if Sowore, on the other hand, holds his ground, it could reignite the spirit of activism, but at the cost of making him a bigger target. One thing is very clear: this is not just about Sowore, and it's not just about Tinubu. It's about you, me, and the right of over 250 million Nigerians. What side of story will you stand on? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unfiltered political analysis. Until next time, stay tuned, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay fearless. Leave your comment. It is very, very key. It is the heartbeat of the conversation to push our democracy forward. Thank you for watching.